Hi there, welcome to Bible Weekly. My name is Irene Newman, and I get to share something with you about my experience with God's Word. I always trust and I believe that God's Word is really practical, and I like to apply it to my life and just take God's Word and really figure out how it's going to translate into my world and into my life. So I'm taking a verse that probably most of you know. It's a very familiar passage from Psalm 23. And I'm only going to take verse 5. Psalm 23 is full of pictures and images. And this is one that has really become meaningful to me. Verse 5, it says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Now, enemies, everyone has enemies, and everyone is familiar with the odds in life that we have to struggle and fight against. And things can get really big. Enemies can get really huge. They can blow themselves up. And I find it so interesting that God has given us an imagination. And I find that really, with my imagination, these enemies can get really oversized and bigger and bigger and bigger, while I get smaller and smaller, weaker, more timid, and I just get completely overwhelmed. I have no idea how I'm going to conquer these enemies. One of my enemies has been fear. Now, I always find it important to give your enemy a name so that you can address this enemy and just look it straight in the face. And my enemy has been fear. So when I take this picture of "you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies," I have made it my ritual, so to say, to take this table and pull it right in front of me and imagine all the good things that God puts on this table for me. Those are the experiences that I've had with God. Those are the wonderful people God has placed in my life. Those are Bible verses, scriptures that He has left for us, truth that really strengthens us and encourages us. But it can also be the good things like food or swimming or sports or things that I love to do. And I just spread these things out on this table. And I imagine that my enemy is on the other side of that table. So between me and my enemy is all of God's goodness and His generosity. And with that, I find that the enemy gets smaller and smaller, and this table gets bigger and bigger as God gives me more and more good gifts. This is an expandable table. It grows as God's promises grow in my life and as God's goodness grows in my life. It's an amazing table, and I love this table. And I find it so interesting that God uses these images to teach us how to face our enemies. I hope that this has encouraged you, and I want to also read one more verse because I find it interesting that God actually speaks a lot about food in the Bible and preparing tables, and talks about a banquet. He talks about weddings, all these things that involve actually a lot of images with food. And I find food is so great. It has so many flavors, and it really not only nourishes us and sustains us, but it really builds us up. And I find it very fascinating. So one more verse that I find really great, Luke 12:37. "It will be good for those servants whose master finds them watching when he comes." Now, Jesus is the master, and when He returns, it'll be good for those servants if they look out for Him. "Truly, I tell you, He will dress himself to serve, and he will have them recline at the table, and he will come and wait on them. I find that so amazing. Take that image also with Psalm 23:5, and just imagine what all you have to face your enemies, plus Jesus, who is there to help you and to wait on you. Okay, I find that totally amazing, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much for watching Bible Weekly. We hope to see you next week.